What's up, you sick mother bluffers? I'm here at Deuce's, and I'm going to jump into a cash game session, buying for the max 400. Let's run it up, let's go. Alright, let's start things off with the Drawmaha bump pot. I'm in the big blind with King 7744, and we go 6 ways to a flop of 7, 3, 10, 2 spades. So I flop a set of 7s on the board, and I've got 2 paired down, 7s and 4s.
There's action for me?
No, I think it's here. Check. No, I haven't acted yet.
Oh, you said check.
I said check.
I think you were repeating his action.
Yeah.
You should make it a complete sentence for sure.
As you can hear, there was a little confusion about who the action was on. I wanted to confirm that the small blind checked, but instead of asking, did you check? I just asked, check? Question mark. So that counted as verbal action. I clearly intended to lead out with middle set and 2 pair down, but unfortunately I'm forced to check. Checks to the hijack who bets 20. The cutoff raises to 65, and then the button goes all in for 153. Action is back on me, and I'm not loving the situation. I could very well be crushed by a set of 10s on the board, and I'll most likely need to improve on my 2 pair down to have a chance at half the pot. On top of that, the button's raise does reopen the action, so by calling, I expose myself to a 4-bet shove from the hijack or the cutoff. But I mean, come on, set and 2 pair, I make the call. The hijack just calls, and the cutoff folds. I wasn't expecting that, but hey, that's one less player to beat. So we go 3 ways into draw time. I'm going to draw 1 and hope to draw a 7 or 4 to make a full house. The hijack draws 3 and the button draws 2. I draw the 9 of clubs, which is not much help, and the turn comes in offsuit 5, giving me a gutshot straight draw on top of my set. I know the hijack player is capable of gambling it up with marginal holdings, and when they draw 3 cards, I'm pretty confident my 2 pair is good, so I decide to jam for my remaining 252, and the hijack pretty quickly makes the call. We go heads up for the side pot to the river, which comes at queen. We go to showdown, and unfortunately the hijack does show the bigger flop set on the board. My 2 pair down is good, so we chop the side pot. The button has trip aces down, so they're going to chop the main pot with the hijack. I end up losing around 150 bucks. Not the best start to the session. I decide to add on for another 600 bucks, so I'm in for 1k. And in this hand, there's a button straddled 5. Action's on me in a small blind, and I look down at ace 10 offsuit. I raise to 25, and I get calls from the middle position player and the button. We go 3 ways to a flop of 7 ace 8 rainbow. Being first to act, I can either c-bet or mix in a check for a little deception, but in a loose 1-2 game, you generally want to go for value whenever possible, so I c-bet for 40, and both players make the call. Interesting spot. It's not the most connected board in the world, so I'm going to proceed with caution. The turn comes the deuce of clubs. I'm not sure I can get a second street of value with ace 10. This kind of feels like a spot where I'm up against either like a set of 8s, 7s, or some 2 pairs like ace 8, ace 7, and even bigger aces like ace jack and sometimes ace queen. With all that in mind, I start things off with the check, middle position checks, and the button leads for 100. Again, I'm having a hard time coming up with any bluffs or hands I beat. I mean, sometimes they can have a smaller ace, especially like a small ace x of clubs, 5-6, 9-10, but yeah, with no history against this player, I decide to fold, and so does the middle position player. I asked them if I made a good fold, and they said no, so good bluff, and on to the next one. In this one, I put the $5 straddle on the button, and the cutoff back straddles to 10. Action is now on me, and I look down at pocket 8s. I could go for a raise. I'm probably incentivized to do so by the back straddle, but hey, I'm already stuck and I don't want to get 3 bets, so I just make the call. I'll happily call a single raise and set mine. Doesn't come to that though, as the big blind and hijack call and the cutoff checks their option. We go 4 ways to a flop of jack 8, jack 2 spades. I flop a boat on a super connected board. Let's go. Action checks to the hijack, who leads for 12. The cutoff folds. I am super tempted to raise and extract max value from a jack or draws, but I don't mind letting the big blind in, so I decide to just call, and the big blind calls as well. The turn comes at queen, which is a good and bad card for me. 9-10 gets there, but Queen Jack now makes a bigger boat. Action checks to me, and yeah, Queen Jack beats me, but there's still a ton of hands I can get value from. I want to make up for lost value by just calling on the flop, so I bet 50, targeting trip jacks, a straight, or even a flush draw, but unfortunately they both fold. Quick little mid-session update. Yeah, kind of sucked to walk into that first hand, the Drawmaha hand, and end up losing like $150 or something. I'm not too sure about my shove. I don't know. And then very nice to flop a full house with pocket eights. I think I probably got max value on that hand. It's just sad we didn't win more chips there, but let's get back inside and let's try to make a big pot happen. Let's go. Back in the action, I put out the $5 button straddle, and the big blind makes the call before I look down at King 7, and I just check it back. The flop comes 7 Queen 9 rainbow. Big blind checks. I decide to bet 10 just to try and take it down, but they make the call. Turn is beautiful. It's the King of Spades, gave me 2 pair. Big blind checks again. I bet 15 for value this time, but the big blind makes 8 disciplined laydown with ace 9 suited. By now, most of the action players at the table have busted and the game has tightened up quite a bit. I decide to check out the other table, which seems to have quite a few action players, and I get quite the warm welcome to the table as I pick up pocket aces under the gun. I open to 15, and one by one, all the players fold until it's on the button and they shove for $200. I snap call, and so we're going heads up to a full run out, which comes a terrifying Jack 10 King on the flop. The turn comes a 9 of clubs. Come on, man. I mean, I lose to kings, queens, jacks, 10s, 9s, ace queen, king jack, king 10. I only beat ace king at this point, and the river comes the 4 of clubs, completing the flush. I am not very hopeful as I'm waiting for the button to table their hand. They show a king. They're going to show me some dumb 2 pair. I can feel it coming. But no, they muck the other card. Thank God. I'm going to assume I was up against ace king. Happy to take this one down with aces on such a nightmare run out. In this one, I pick up king jack suited in the hijack. Action folds to me and I open to 15. Cutoff is the only player to make the call. We go heads up to a flop of 5, 8, 10, 2 clubs. Not much to go on for me except for 2 overs, so I'm going to start things off with a check. My opponent bets 10, and against this particular player, I'm happy to peel the turn and see what develops. The turn comes the 9 of hearts, which gives me an open-ended straight draw to go along with my overcards. I check, and this time the cutoff checks back. The river comes, the 7 of diamonds, give me the jack high straight. I don't want this checking around, obviously, so I lead for 35, and the cutoff pretty quickly calls. Looks like they rivered the lower end of the straight with a 6, so I'm going to take the spot down. In this one, I'm in the small blind, and action folds to me.
Is it funny to us? Chop, like whatever. You don't chop?
Big blind says no chop, so I look down at my cards, and I've got ace queen offsuit. I raise to 15, and the big blind makes the call. We go heads up to a flop of 8, 4, 6, 2 hearts. I decide to check, knowing that this player loves to bet when they sense weakness. They bet 10, and I make the call. The turn comes the jack of hearts, giving me the nut flush draw. I check once again, the big blind bets 15, and I once again make the call. The river is the 10 of clubs, so I break out on the flush, and I don't pair up either. Not sure if my ace high is good here, and I think I can get my opponent to fold a lot of their flopped single pair holdings. I fire out a bet of 60, and it gets the job done. In this hand, we're playing a Drawmaha bomb pot. I've got jack 10, knight 4, 3 on the button, and the flop comes king 6, 3, so pretty much nothing on the board or in my hand, but since action checks all the way around, I get to draw. I guess I could try to draw to a flush or a straight. I ultimately decide to keep jack 10, 9 just because none of my straight outs are on the board, and if the turn comes a high card, that could interact pretty well with my down hand as well. Things don't quite go to plan, but it's not all that bad either, as I draw a 9 and a 5, so I now have a pair of 9s down. Probably not good, but the turn comes the 9 of clubs, so now I pick up a set on a rainbow disconnected board. The big blind leads out for 30, and I have an easy call. We go heads up to the river, which comes the 6 of clubs, improving me to the second nut full house. The big blind leads out again for 80, And maybe I've got just a little too much beer in me because I decide to raise to 300, thinking I've only got a pair of 9s down, so I can put pressure on my opponent with the third board nuts. But they pretty quickly make the call, and they show king king 8-8 for 2 pair down and the nut full house on the board. I get scooped. Last hand for this vlog. In this one, there's a limb from under the gun before the middle position player raises to 10. The cutoff, button, and small blind make the call, and I look down at ace king in the big blind. I raise it up to 40, and the cutoff is the only player to make the call. We go heads up to a flop of 5-8-8, 2 clubs. I decide to lead out for 55, just as I would with all my big overpairs, and it gets the job done. And with that, it's time for me to head home. I rack up my chips and cash out. So there you have it. I was in for $1,000, cashed out for $520, booking a loss of $480. I normally play at Deuce's every week, but it had been a couple of weeks since I had played there because I was out and about filming around Portland, and so I was very excited to see all the fishes, my friends at Deuce's, and got a little bit tipsy, so probably lost a little bit more money than I should, but hey, it happens. I had a lot of fun. I hope you had fun watching it. If you did, don't forget to like, drop me a comment, and subscribe if you haven't already. Really helps the channel grow. Thank you so much for watching. Good luck at the tables, and I'll see you in the next one.